Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today's lesson. Um, my name is Izal Sitole, the CAT teacher. Yes, and for today, we are still on the information management part. So, our discussion is based on our practical assessment task. So our practical assessment task is our topic for today. So we are done with identifying the problem. Remember the first step of your practical assessment. First one was to identify the problem, review the literature, setting up research questions, deciding on the design, data collection. Yes, do you remember? We are done with that. We have discussed all of that. All right, so now we should move to the next step, which is processing and analyzing data. Right, so we have collected information, we have collected data. Remember, data collection can be done using the interviews, internet, um, questionnaires, observations, etc. But in our practical assessment task, there's a requirement. You are required to collect data also using the questionnaire. In our last lesson, I have showed you guys how to create a questionnaire. At first, we discussed how to create a questionnaire using the Microsoft Word. On Microsoft Word, we practiced how to insert form fields, right? So that your questionnaire can be electronical. People don't have to print out your questionnaire so that they can fill it in. They can fill in the questionnaire using their computers. All right, so you have seen how to create that. And also, you were required to design a questionnaire that you can print out and distribute so that people can fill in the questionnaire using their hands. Right, so the one that you need to print out, it's a must that you do it. It's a must, so you must do it. But the the electronical questionnaire, you can choose between the electronical questionnaire or the online questionnaire. You can use the form fields on Microsoft Word, and also you can use the online software or applications that can help you to create online questionnaires. I have made examples. Remember the Google Forms and also the SurveyMonkey. So we have designed or we have created our questionnaires using Google Forms and also SurveyMonkey. Also ask you to search for more applications that you can use to create an online questionnaire. I hope you've done that. So now, after designing your questionnaire, you distribute and you collect data from your respondents. So your respondents, they respond to your questionnaire. That's you that's you collecting data. So now you have data. What do you need to do with the data? Data now needs to be processed and analyzed. You need to process and analyze this data. After you have distributed the questionnaires, you have to change the information or the data into usable information. You need to analyze the data. This can be done by sorting and grouping the data in a way that is easy to understand. Now you have collected the data, you have to put the data in a spreadsheet, for instance, so that you can sort the data sort and group the data in a way that is easy to understand. When it's easy for you to understand, you can now move to the final step of writing your report. You can now write your report. So we are done with data collection. We can now move to the processing and analyzing of data, which is the second last step. Once the data has been sorted, okay, so you have collected the data. Now you need to process and analyze the data. How can you process and analyze the data? You need to create a spreadsheet. Once the data has been sorted, collect the data, have responses from your respondents. Then sort this data. You can use various formulae, functions, and queries included in spreadsheets and databases to process and analyze the data. So you can sort this data using your Excel spreadsheets and the databases. Right, so let's look at how you can sort the data. How can you process and analyze the data? Right, so Google Forms and the SurveyMonkey, they give its users options of how they want uh, how they want uh, to view the results. So on SurveyMonkey, you can create a spreadsheet so that you'll have an idea of, let's say for instance, I made an example of gender-based violence. You wanted to find how many people have experienced such. Now you sent your online questionnaire. People responded to your questionnaire. SurveyMonkey and Google Forms, for an example. The SurveyMonkey and the Google Forms have what we call the results bar. You can view your results on this online questionnaires software or these applications. You can view your results and you can choose how you want to sort your results. So you can sort your results using a spreadsheet. So SurveyMonkey, on SurveyMonkey, you can create a spreadsheet and see exactly how many people have experienced gender-based violence, for an example. But now you can't take only the information or only the data that you have sorted on your online or your application, on the application or software that you have used to collect data online. So you can't use the information that you have gained through the SurveyMonkey only. You need to I think it's best that you create a spreadsheet on your Microsoft Excel and then combine the results that you have received on your online or on your application that you used to create online questionnaire. You can combine that information and this information that you have gained using other sources, for instance, internet and the Microsoft Word questionnaire. Yeah, you can combine this data. After combining this data on your Microsoft Excel, now you can make decision. You can process and analyze the data. How to process and analyze the data? Excel and database use standard mathematical signs such as plus, minus, multiplication, and division. So now you can combine what you have received through the use of, for example, the SurveyMonkey, combine it with what you've got from the internet and also from the electronic questionnaire. The responses from the electronic questionnaire combined with the responses from the online questionnaire. And also, these responses combined with what you have received from the internet. Now you need to create a spreadsheet so that you can be able to read and understand this data. Turn this data into knowledge. That is you processing and analyzing the data. Now let's look at our, these are the functions that you can use: the sum, average, minimum, max, count, and also the if statement. All right, so you can use these functions to do calculations, find the total, find the average, the mean, the max, whatever that you feel like you need to calculate in order to be able to design or to make a report. Right, so now let's look at our practical assessment task. Process and analyze data in a spreadsheet. Like I've said, you've now collected, or you now have all the information that you have received through your questionnaire. You have the data that you have received through your questionnaires, as well as other data such as number of people, etc. Maybe data that you have received using the internet, observations, etc. Now you need to process and analyze all the data, combine everything, process and then analyze it. Okay, so that may require the use of a spreadsheet and worksheets within the spreadsheet. So you need to design the spreadsheet, combine everything, and do calculations on a spreadsheet. All right, now number 5 says create a spreadsheet with a meaningful file name and save it in an appropriate subfolder in the phase 2 folder. Yes. Capture, import, or copy the data from your questionnaire to this spreadsheet, as well as any possible data you sourced in phase 1 that you need to process. So now you need to capture, import, or copy the data from your questionnaire, as well as any possible data you sourced in phase 1. So you need to combine everything, the data that you have collected from phase 1 up until now. All right. Ensure that only relevant, appropriate data is added or captured. Relevant, appropriate data other than the questionnaire survey data is added. There are no processing errors. Make sure there are no errors. Like for instance, if you do calculations or you try to use a certain feature, there mustn't be any error indicators on your spreadsheet. Just ensure that you don't have errors or error indicators. If there's errors, fix them before you save your spreadsheet. Now 7 says design and format the spreadsheet with a good user-friendly layout so that it is easy to read and interpret the data using appropriate formatting techniques. So now these are the techniques that you need to follow or you need to use. The techniques: make sure the row and column headings or labels stand out. So you will have tables, obviously. Now, tables have headings. So in your spreadsheet, if you have headings, the headings or the labels must stand out, that they are, make sure that they are formatted differently to other data. Your headings must stand out. Know how to make headings stand out. Right. Use consistent color, borders, wrapping, and styles to format the spreadsheet. So you should use color, maybe in your headings, include color so that your headings or labels stand out. Use borders, use wrapping and styles to format the spreadsheet. Ensure that the formatting makes it easy for anybody to interpret the data or results. Yes, you need to make sure that it is easy for anyone who reads or anyone who interprets the data and the result. Make it easy for them to interpret the data or the results. Use filtering or sorting as needed on the data, as well as formulas or functions to process data, and ensure any data-related questions posed in phase one. Okay, okay, so we have seen the examples of formulas, functions, simple functions, which are the sum, max, mean, count, average, mode, median, etc. And the functions that include a cell range, functions that include a cell range plus two parameters or conditions like the between, the rand between, rand up, count if, find, power, need, and also a lookup or nested if function or functions not in the CAPS curriculum. So you are allowed to use any functions, even if the functions are not in the CAPS curriculum. All right. Please note that no marks will be awarded for functions that do not produce meaningful or relevant information. In other words, you must be able to use the information obtained from these formulas and functions as findings or partial findings and conclusions in your final report. So every question, every function that you are going to use on your spreadsheet, they must help you with coming up with the conclusions of your final report. It must help you produce meaningful or relevant information. In other words, you must be able to use the information obtained from these formulas. From these formulas, you must obtain information as findings. It must help you with the conclusions in your final report. If you are unsure of the level of function, consult your teacher. So indicate to your teacher if you have used functions not in the curriculum. If you have used functions that are not in the curriculum, you need to consult with your teacher. Okay, so after you have used the functions, you need to summarize the results that you will use in the report on a separate worksheet. You need to summarize the results that you will use in the report on a separate worksheet within the same spreadsheet. All right, so create appropriate meaningful graphs. So in your spreadsheet, you must also include meaningful graphs that you will be able to use in your report to substitute or support other information like claims or arguments. So your spreadsheet will help you support or substantiate your claims or arguments. So you will use the graphs and the calculation. So after calculating everything, you can now design your graph and use that graph to substantiate or support other information in your final report. Support your claims or argument. Right. So now apply what you have learned in CAT and mathematics or mathematical literacy when creating these graphs. Okay, so you need to apply the skills and knowledge that you have acquired um, in CAT and mathematics or mathematical literacy in creating the graphs. Okay, use appropriate types of graphs and options. Ensure that the graphs are easy to read and interpret. You must have at least 2 relevant graphs, although more might be useful. So you must have 2 relevant graphs. If you feel like you need to put in more graphs, you can, but make sure they are relevant. But marks will be given for 2 relevant graphs. Note, you must be able to use the information obtained from these formulas, functions, and graphs as findings or partial findings and conclusions in your final report. You must be able to use this information obtained from these formulas, functions, and graphs as findings. So you must use them as findings or partial findings and conclusions in your final report. Save the spreadsheet in your phase 2 folder. Save the spreadsheet in your phase 2 folder. Make sure that you use an appropriate file name. Okay, so we are done now with the processing and the analyzing of data with your spreadsheet. Now for your PET, you need to create a spreadsheet, but with the data has been removed from the practical assessment task for this year. Now let's see how many marks can you get from your with creating your spreadsheet. So when creating your spreadsheet, okay, so let's see how many marks you can get. Right, so you will get, let's see, this is for the questionnaire and the spreadsheet. Okay, well designed and formulated. You're well designed and formatted, well designed and formatted using appropriate formatting techniques. So if you have used appropriate formatting techniques such as the borders, shading, the font alignment, etc. It has good quality, good layout, and it's easy to read and interpret. For this one, you will have, let's see, separate worksheets for results. If you have separate worksheets for results in your spreadsheet, you'll get a mark, a point for that. A well-designed layout, like I have said, the borders, the shading, font alignment, etc. You'll also get point for those. The headings, yes, well formatted with appropriate consistent formatting, freezing of panes, conditional formatting, absolute cell referencing, right? Absolute cell referencing, conditional formatting, freezing panes. So you get points for this. It must also be easy to read and interpret. Now, moving to the quality of your spreadsheet. Only relevant, appropriate data collected and captured, excluding biographical data. So you must exclude the biographical data. So information like the names of people, the gender, yes, it must be relevant, appropriate data collected, excluding the biographical data. So you must include the biographical data, just like what I have mentioned now. The biographical data must be included. Right, so the biographical data won't actually give you, it won't help you with your report. For your report, you just need the results, like something like their opinions, maybe a number of people that have experienced gender-based violence, for instance, but not who experienced that gender-based violence or who have been in that situation. Information about that person is not required, but the information that is required is the information of how many people has experienced that. This is an example that I am making. Relevant, appropriate processing and analysis of data. No processing errors or no error indicators. For not having error indicators, or for not having errors, you'll get a point. Right, so this data must be relevant. It must not have processing errors. Yes. The analysis includes relevant, appropriate data other than a questionnaire or survey. Okay, so in your analysis, you must include data that you have collected through the use of other sources. Data that you have collected from phase 1 up until now, not only the data that you have collected using the questionnaires alone. Right, so you must include everything, every data that you have collected from phase 1 up until now. Now, you will also get a point for functions that are done correctly. Now, the graphs will also give you points, at least 2 graphs that are relevant, meaningful, and serve a purpose. Right, so at least one relevant, meaningful graph present. Okay. At least one relevant, meaningful graph present that will contribute to the solution. So you get a point for having at least one graph. But please note, you are required to have at least 2. Right, but you'll have one point for at least one relevant, meaningful graph that is present that will contribute to the solution. A second relevant, meaningful graph that will contribute to the solution. So that's 2.42 graphs. Appropriate types of graphs and options used. So you must use an appropriate type of graph that is easy to interpret. Graphs, yes, must be easy to read and interpret. Yes, they must be easy to read and interpret. Now, there's also marks for complexity of your spreadsheet. So the following represent the 4 different levels of complexity of spreadsheet functions. All right, so you must use these different levels of functions. So you must use at least functions from the simple functions. So from the simple functions, you must use maybe 1 or 2 or more than 3 functions, and also use functions that include a cell range and one other parameter. So you must use functions from all of these groups, from 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right. So there's marks for at least one meaningful calculation from level 1. So you'll get marks if you'll get a mark for using a meaningful calculation from a function that is on level 1, another mark for using a calculation that is on level 2, and another function from level 3 and 4. Right, so if you use only functions that are on level 1 functions will only give you 1 point. So we won't get 4 points. 4 points is for when you use functions from these 4 levels, from all of these 4 levels. All right, so please note any incorrect or meaningless aspect of function does not qualify for consideration. So your calculations must be correct and they must be relevant. List any function where applicable used that is not part of the curriculum. List any function that is used not part of the curriculum. If you used a function that is not part of the curriculum, please make sure that your teacher is aware of that. Now, I think that's it for today. We have discussed how your spreadsheet should be and how you can turn the information that you have collected from phase one up until phase 2. You have collected information, you have collected data from phase 1 until phase 2. You have used different sources. So in today's lesson, I have showed you how you can turn that data into useful information, and I have discussed with you guys how you should how your spreadsheet should be like. So after you have collected information, let's say maybe through the use of internet, remember from phase 1 up until phase 2, you have used different sources of collecting data. Now you need to combine the results from all of those sources, including the questionnaires. Not only data from the questionnaires, but data from all the sources that you have used. So you must combine everything and then combine it on your spreadsheet, do calculations. After doing calculations, then you can move to the final step, which is writing your report. Because from doing calculations, you will come up with the final results, or the knowledge of what exactly you were looking for. You have now an idea of what is happening, of what you have searched about. Say, for instance, you have searched about gender-based violence. By this point, you've collected the data. Now you have processed and analyzed the data using the spreadsheet. After processing and analyzing the data, you now have an idea, an exact information of how many people have experienced such. So I have showed you how to process and analyze the data, and I have discussed with you what you are required to do in your practical assessment task. We have looked at the requirements and the allocation of marks for that. I think for now, for phase two, you know what to do now. So you know how to collect the data, and you also know how to process and analyze the data, how to use the spreadsheet to analyze the data. Right, so in our next lesson, I will revise the functions, some of the functions, how you can calculate, how you can use the data that you have calculated, how to add the data and that you have calculated, turn the data, calculate, find the total, turn the data into graphs and use those graphs for your report. So I'll show you how to create graphs, how to calculate how to use some functions when you are calculating, right? So we will revise um, those functions. We will also revise on how you can create graphs. Right, so that's it for today, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye.